I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Christy.
And we're part of the AAC team at Bolton NHS Paediatric Speech and Language Therapy.
So we're going to go through some key statements related to AAC and we're going to work out if they are myths or tips. So first one for Lindsay, you need certain skills to use AAC.
So that's a myth. So there's no prerequisites to using AAC. Research shows that we learn AAC through modelling and teaching. Sometimes AAC is used later, but actually if we provide early intervention of AAC, it has really positive results on speech, language and communication skills.
Okay, great. Model without expectation.
So that is a top tip. So we have to do lots of modelling with our AAC and using that. And when we're modelling and teaching communication systems to our AAC users, we are modelling and modelling and modelling, but we're not expecting them to say anything back to us because we need to give that receptive input before we can expect that expressive output.
Okay, and the statement, AAC will stop them talking.
So this is a myth. So there's lots of research out there that shows that actually it has a positive impact on speech development, and there's nothing to suggest it would ever stop someone from talking.
And don't we need to start with photos first?
So this is a myth. So photos are mainly around using nouns. So if we're just using photos, it really limits the amount of language that we can use within our communication interactions. So a lot of the words that we need to talk about and earlier words such as like stop, more, go are quite abstract, so symbols are needed to represent them. If we're only using pictures, then that really limits the amount of language that can be used, and it can impact on communication growth and developing communication skills.
And presume competence.
So this is a tip. So when we're working with AAC users, if they're pointing to symbols, then we need to respond and say, oh, you're saying you like it, or whatever they've said, to validate that their communication. Even if you don't think that's necessarily what they want to say, we're presuming that competence and applying that language within the context of the activity that you're doing.
Okay, and what about when people say, oh, they can't use it or they're not ready?
So this is a bit of a myth because when we think about AAC, it is like learning a new language. So there's no prerequisites. We're teaching that language. We need to use AAC to teach it. And if we're thinking about typically developing children, they have models of 4,000 to 6,000 words a day. So again, we just really need to model and model and model and model all day long.
Okay, so make AAC accessible.
Yeah, so this is a top tip. So communication happens all day, every day, all day long. So if the AAC system isn't accessible, communication can't happen. So with an AAC user, wherever the AAC user goes, the AAC system also needs to go with them.
And what about when people say power-based is better than paper-based?
So this is a myth. So with communication, we need to value multimodal communicators. So that means that whatever method they're using, we respond to. With power-based and paper-based, it gives them more tools to communicate with. So the more tools that you have, the more things that you can say. So there is also the fact that if you only just kind of use power-based alone, there's going to be some disadvantages to that. So sometimes power-based can become, it can break, it can become a bit slow, it can run out of battery, it can't always be used in certain places like if it's a really hot day and gets overheated, or if you're on doing some like water activities. So you do need other forms of communication, otherwise communication can't happen with AAC in terms of power or paper based.
So leading on from that then, accept all forms of communication.
So that is a top tip. So obviously we just talked about that. So wherever our AAC users are you saying, whether it is using their body language or their facial expressions, or even pointing to symbols. We need to accept that that's what they're saying, respond to that, and it's really important that we do that.
Okay. And the last statement.
So AAC is a journey. So I will often say this phrase quite a lot. Please don't be disheartened if AAC is taking time. It does take time to develop skills and learn a language. There's lots of different steps and lots of different things that can go wrong with AAC. We need communication partners on board. There's training that needs to happen with that. And sometimes the first step in the journey is just trying and modelling and just not being afraid to use AAC and use symbols with your speech. So just give it a go and see how you get on.